ghetto studio.
Yeah. Oh, during COVID times here in Toronto, that's where we're based out of. Oh, by the way, Ali Gafour here, Master Ali Gafour, CEO of 2020 Armor, former national team member with a face you guys already recognize, Master That Young, world rank #1. So we had a photo shoot today in my garage, and we had to do it there because studios are still not allowed to be open, but apparently they're now just opening up. So next time, so next time we do it, and garages usually aren't air conditioned. It's like 30 degrees Celsius here in Toronto. It was hot. Yeah, photo shoots down. Yeah, it is a type of stamina for sure. Yeah, so I'm gonna go get my computer because I forgot it. Master, why don't you entertain people for like 30
Entertain,
seconds?
alright. Okay, so, today you're talking about stamina. Stamina is super, super important. I know during this time of COVID, it's been really hard for all of us to train stamina. I'm not at my best right now, for sure. But we have a few exercises to share with you guys to improve your stamina, and using the 2020 Armor chest guard as well.
Yeah, and I think what's also kind of what builds confidence, or at least lets you know that you're on the right track. Because inherently you know that you don't have the same amount of stamina, but you don't know exactly how much, right? And so what we'll be able to show you confidently is exactly what your stamina is. I think that's important. So.
Yeah, we're going to test my stamina today. It's probably at my worst right now.
yeah, poor Yvette. That's okay. Your worst is a lot of people's best, so I think.
Well, I'm excited to see because we're starting to train a lot more and a lot harder now. So my intensity is definitely going up.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited to see the difference in maybe like a month.
Yeah.
I think in 1 month we'll see hopefully a bigger difference.
Yeah. So last kind of series we talked about the reaction time, very important for martial arts. Stamina. I mean, come on, like what are all the reasons stamina is important, right? I mean, last round, last 10 seconds. If you have no gas in the tank, you lose at one point.
Yeah.
Everything that you've done the last 5 minutes and 30 seconds or 40 seconds or 50 seconds, 5 minutes and 50 seconds, 6 minutes was all gone, right? Because you couldn't maintain that stamina in the last 10 seconds. So.
I've actually seen a lot of fights in the past where an athlete or a fighter is really, really good technically. Like They have so much stamina in the beginning, and they're winning by, let's say, 15 points, 15 to 20 points. And by the third round, their stamina just went. And then
so it means nothing,
right? Means nothing,
right? Yeah. You could be the greatest in the first 2 rounds, but
it's true.
Yeah, the third round is what matters, and keeping your score above the other person. So stamina, we all hate it. I mean, as athletes, we hate it. As coaches, you're like, yeah, whatever, you have to do it. I know it's a little different, but as former athletes, we dislike it. But again, super, super important and something that we really need to focus on. And what's interesting, what you may or may not know, is the different types of stamina for martial arts. So we'll go over that, the 3 types that you may or may not know, and we'll talk about how to improve those, and then we'll talk about how we measure that 2020 Armor and why we measure it that way, and why that's significant. Then we'll talk about benchmarking, then we'll talk about some exercises, and then we'll talk about, again, how to measure again so that you know if what you're doing is actually working or not. So that is what's on today's menu. All right, we'll get right into it.
Yeah, sure. So when people talk about stamina, everybody thinks about like a runner, like an endurance kind of thing. People are running, that's like stamina, you keep going and keep going and keep going. But for fighters, for any type of martial arts, I think our stamina has 3 types. So one is a footwork type of stamina, second is kicking stamina, and the third is a push and pull kind of stamina, because when you're fighting somebody, you're pushing against them, you're almost wrestling, right? So the 3 types stamina: footwork, kicking, and push-pull.
Yeah, and you'll instantly notice why those things, if you're new to martial arts, you might think, oh, that doesn't make sense, or why it was all different. If you, for example, if you train a lot, and when I used to train, I was comfortable in the martial arts setting, but I would walk for 2 hours and I would get tired. I'm like, that makes no sense. Why is my walking stamina so bad? I assumed because I had the stamina for martial arts, my walking stamina was the same.
No, it's really the difference.
Right, which is why it's important if you're at a game and you're watching your friends and stuff like that. If you're standing all day, walking around all day, that actually takes away from your stamina. So you got to be careful of measuring that as well.
You got to be very specific in our type of stamina.
And even just walking upstairs, right? Walking upstairs a long time was a little bit different than what we do. I thought I would have great stamina for that, but I didn't. We really have to be very specific in these three types of stamina and how, because that will really take us to the third round in the last 10 seconds, which is ultimately the most important part of the way the scoring works today, because you have to have the most points at the end of the time.
And the whole fight consists of footwork, kicking, and stepping.
Yeah, those are all the three things, right? Yeah.
Stepping and push.
Yeah, stepping is footwork.
Yeah, footwork. I know, I wrote it twice.
She's really good at stepping.
I love stepping.
Stepping
Stepping's super important.
Yeah. So much that she wrote it twice. So we'll dive into a little bit more details of those. Why don't we do that? We already went through the agenda. So let's talk about footwork stepping. What is that? Why is that important? Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, so footwork, when you're fighting a person, you have to go in and going out. So what do? You can't just walk into it, right? So your footwork, and you also when you're fighting somebody, you can't just be like, oh, I'm coming. They're going to see you, right? So footwork is super important when you're trying to fake somebody, when you're trying to go at different angles, to go in and actually score. And that's why it's important.
Yeah, and in a match, I mean, obviously you're not kicking every second, every minute. So I think on average the numbers were in a round, you land about maybe 10 kicks, and it might be a little bit more in today's scoring.
2 minutes, yeah.
In about 2 minutes, you land about 10. So, if you think about how many you actually throw, and how much time does it take to do 10 kicks, not very long at all. So, a significant majority of the round is stepping. Right? It's just moving around, moving your body around. And stepping is like you're taking your whole mass, you're taking your whole body and shifting it. So you might think, oh, that's nothing, stepping. And yeah, I got that. But it's not true, because it does tax a different part of your body. You got to be comfortable with it. And just practicing stamina from footwork is an important part of just stamina training. You can't just think, oh, okay, it's just something that it'll kind of come naturally. Practicing your stamina footwork is important, and we'll talk about some of the exercises we can do to improve that. The obvious one is kicking stamina. Like that's an obvious one. Yeah, like just have to kick.
Your legs need to go up. If they can't go up, you can't score, right?
Yeah, that's an obvious one, and we'll talk about how that's what we'll use as kind of like a basic benchmark for stamina, using 2020 number vest and measuring it. But that's an obvious one. That's the one that we probably most used to doing, like targets and kicking those and see how long you can do it for 20 minutes. For 2 minutes. And then push-pull stamina.
Push-pull stamina.
Totally different energy system, right? Yeah. Try wrestling, anybody?
Oh.
Right on the ground, like you actually try wrestling somebody. It's so hard. It's because your body's all tense, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what are a lot of people think that that's not a stamina that's important, or you think that that's not something that actually taxes the body a lot, or that you have to focus on. But no, it is, and we'll talk about that as well. So. Measuring, yeah, how we measure. So, why don't I just quickly connect to the vest and show how we measure and why that's significant. So, a match, what's that? In a typical exchange in a Taekwondo fight, most martial arts fights, maybe MMA, lasts anywhere from about 5 to 8 seconds. If you think of an exchange, right? Maybe you kind of step in, kick, maybe a counter, maybe double kick, whatever, and then go back anywhere from about 6 to 8 seconds. So what we did was we said, let's measure your stamina in 10-second window increments. 10 seconds being the extreme end of that 8-second window, right? And then if you can tell what kind of power you put into the system over a 10-second increment, then that is your stamina. Because what is stamina? Stamina is power sustained over time. If you can kick the same amount of strength at the beginning of the round and kind of at the end, then you have good stamina. So I'm going to go ahead and just show you just a 20-second stamina, 20-second stamina game. We'll go to heartbeat here. We'll go to live mode. 20 seconds, Yvette, don't worry.
Oh dear.
Okay, start. Double tap the guy. Gotta get closer. Yep, ready to go. Okay, so well, let's do a quick little demo here of.
Okay.
You're good.
Still more.
Yeah, you got more? Okay, next one, 30 seconds. Okay, so this screen is important, okay? What we're showing here, okay, is those, oh, let me go back to the graph here. We have the two 10-second increments. We only did 20 seconds, right? So we see at the first 10-second increment, she did about 400 joules. That's the amount of energy she put into the system. And then in the last one, you can see she kind of, kicked it up a notch. She doubled it actually. She did 400 joules. So in the last half, she put in that much more energy. And then what we have here is the best interval. She did 373 joules. That's that one. It looks like about 400. The average was 270, and the total power she put into the system is 539 joules, and she kicked 28 times. Okay, now let's analyze that those numbers, right? So that's what, and you can put the time to 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute, which is the 20 seconds, just to show you an example. Thank you. So you see how we broke out the energy that goes into the system in 10-second increments, and then if you do that over, let's say, like a 2-minute round, you can see which parts. Let me go a little bit here. So. A little bit lower. You can see which parts in the round, what periods in the round you are declining or peaking in your stamina, how much power you put into the system. And I want to remind everyone, it doesn't matter what system, electronic system is that you're using or training for, stamina is universal. Like, you need to have stamina for any system, it doesn't matter. You have to be able to kick with power all the time. And precision as well, that's another factor to take into it, of course, but you also just need to have power. Now, so that's how we measure, and that's why we measure it in these 10-second increments, and that's how the graph looks like. So now let's talk about at what points in the round, do you need the most stamina?
Right. So when you put it at 2 minutes, that's a round in a Taekwondo match, right? So during that round, you can see in the beginning till the end of that round how your stamina is, right? So if you see that you're dipping right from the middle, that means you have to work hard from the middle. If you're dipping in the beginning, then sorry.
You know, yeah. But also, I think what's important is, I think generally a good practice to have and a good skill to have is for each round, especially the third round, because there's 3 rounds, 2 minutes. The last 30 seconds, you have to be able to output that power. Because it's those last 30 seconds that your opponent would probably be more tired, right? Because at the end of the round, most people are tired. But especially in the third round, if you can't output that power, then that's a huge risk for your results, right?
You can either win or loss.
Yeah. So absolutely. So if you're training and you're training with your coach, those last 30 seconds and the power output in those last 30 seconds is something I'll be watching out for, and something that you should be training for to push. Because I'm guilty of it too, and I don't know if world #1 rank here is, but when we did target kicking and we're asked to kick, you can kick, but you don't necessarily have to kick with the same amount of power, right?
You don't?
Well, sometimes you're tired, but so if you're doing target practice, for example, right? And your coach is telling you to do stamina practice, you can maybe make the same amount of sound, right? Yeah. But you don't necessarily kick with the same amount of
you can kind of cheat.
Yeah, you can kind of cheat that way, right? But you can't get away with that here. So again, and electronic systems won't let you get away with that either. So this will really keep you honest and really will show you how much power you're actually putting into the system, which again is very important for the end of the round and determine if you have that gas left to push through. So that's how we measure, that's why we measure. We'll talk about the last 30 seconds. Okay, so to benchmark it. So benchmark meaning to set like a standard for yourself. Right? There are no world standards right now. There will eventually be, I think, in a few years, once this becomes a little bit more common, because we don't really measure anything in Taekwondo right now in martial arts. I mean, you might be able to do it like a high performance center or something like that, but it's not something that's common. You have to create your own benchmark. And a good benchmark that we believe to start off with is 2 minutes. You should do 2 minutes of the stamina and just round skin.
Yeah.
Right? Just what Yvette did, and do that for 2 minutes, and that's your benchmark. Mm-hmm. Right? You have something to start from to determine if you're getting better or worse.
Yeah. Most common kick that you use in Taekwondo, anyways.
Yeah.
The roundhouse kick.
And if you feel that today's game and rule is more of a cut kick, then do that. That can be your kick that you do with both legs. That's fine as well. But start with something, and I think that's an important thing, because if you don't have this benchmark, how do you know if you're improving? Right? Again, what gets measured gets improved. You'll hear me say that over and over again, because it's so true. It applies in business, but also in martial arts. And so creating that benchmark for yourself is going to be key. So create that benchmark. Okay, so now we have your what your average power is for each 10 seconds, what your total power output is for the whole session. We got a benchmark. What do we do? What do we do to make it better?
Okay, so with Taekwondo endurance, it's more of a, because we only have 2-minute rounds, it's very short interval training, right? So we want high intensity, lots of intervals, but really short times. So what I would suggest is, one of my favorite things to do is sprinting, all right? But if you don't have anybody to sprint against, you can't really do anything, right? So what I suggested is we use the chest guard as a game. So where's that?
Which one did you want to do? The reflex one?
Yeah, the reaction.
Oh, reaction one? Yeah, okay,
so
sure.
with my cell phone.
Oh, you want to do with the vest?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, with the app, I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
So if you want to hold.
Yeah. So, okay, let's see, reflex. How long, ma'am? There's a little stamina.
Okay. So with this one, because I'm not only just sprinting, of course you want to have like a longer distance as well. I'm going to be doing on the spot high knees for the entire time, okay? Really high intensity, boom, 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 boom. When it flashes, all we have to do is high knees all the way here and run back. Heavy and run back. All right?
So no kicking, just actual knees and things.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Knees, things.
And then, what's how long?
Let's go. Yeah, want to do a minute?
You want to do it? I'm not doing it.
Do a minute.
And what's another thing that's interesting from this is that we'll be the lights will push you, right? The lights will push you to actually strive towards something. But
We're working on reaction.
we're also working your reaction at the same time, and you can actually measure the time, because you'll know the distance from. You can keep the same distance, your starting point to the chest guard or the bob, but you actually know the time it takes for you to do that. So that's another kind of measurement that, if you want to get another level of insight into your training, you can actually use that as well. So you got to change it to 30 seconds. It's fine. No one's judging. No one's judging.
I already did a workout today.
Yeah, I don't think a photo shoot counts as a workout. Okay, so.
Alright, we're ready. Ooh. Okay. High knees. But first you're going to be at a longer distance. Right here, we're only our little gym. Get straight back into it. Knees up. Woo! My heart is pumping.
Oh my gosh.
How's the power on my slap? Woo!
Oh my gosh.
You feel my heart? My
6. Okay, so that was what, about maybe 2 meters?
3. I said 1,
That's what.
2, 3.
So 3 meters, right? So she was at a distance of 3 meters. The average time it took for her to go from these up to hitting is about 1.7 seconds, 1.69 seconds. And pretty consistent, got a little bit longer near the end, which is expected. But yeah, right? So
That's so. Would you say that helps? Is that a footwork stamina, a kicking stamina, or
That
a
would
push
be
pull stamina?
a kicking stamina.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, because knees up, which is very much like how we kick.
Yeah, and in general, you can actually do anything you want. What I love to do is I do burpees. So
She loves
I
burpees.
love burpees because I think it's one of the most functional exercises. You're using your entire body on the floor, up, boom, 1, 2. You're using everything, right? So I usually use it on the heartbeat, which is the stamina mode.
Yeah. So right now we showed you with the app. Mr. Jack Woolley, nice to have you here.
Jack,
We're talking about stamina, buddy.
how's your stamina?
Yeah, don't show this to your coach. I hate when I talk to athletes about stamina, I don't tell my coach about this feature. Don't tell them about this feature. Don't tell them it exists. It exists, sorry. Yeah, so right now we showed you how to connect with the app to do it, but actually there's a mode on here, which is a stamina game, which is game number 8. You could also just play this without connecting to the app and just keep the lights up, right? So this is a very simple game. The lights keep on going down, and you have to keep on hitting it.
And makes it even better.
So that's another kicking stamina that you can do. So this one, when you do it on the vest, it's not giving you the numbers, right? Clearly it's just the lights. But this can be a very quick, simple, if you want to know, can I last 20 seconds? If you want a binary yes or no answer, can I last 20 seconds doing burpees kicking? You can do it this way as well. This is like a very simple way to start off. Once you want to get a little bit more advanced and look at the metrics, then you can use the app for that. So that was kicking stamina. That's one of the exercises you can do for that.
Well, next week I'll tell you a little more about footwork and push-pull stamina. I can give a little bit of, so right now the Bob doesn't have any water, so it's a little bit hard for me to push, but one of the exercises that I did suggest was, if Ali, you want to hold Bob for me?
Yep.
This one is for the push-pull stamina, so we can actually have it on the heartbeat as well.
Yeah.
So we're gonna
Tell me whenever you want to go play. You want to do how long you want to do it
let's do it for 20.
for? 20 seconds? Yeah.
So he has to hold it right, because in a fight, we're literally clinching like this, right? So what I'm gonna do is, from here, push, kick, push, kick, push, and kick.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah.
So you're doing the pushing, and then you're making sure
And then
that
make sure you're kicking.
that you're still kicking. Okay. So stamina again.
Oh boy, it's turning into another class. All right, are we gonna do this? All right, we're on stamina, 20 seconds.
Yeah.
Woo! Here we go, let's go, Yvette.
Okay, pushing stamina. Okay, let's go, champ. Keep it up. Keep it up. Keep it up. Good, good, good. 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 Right. Almost there. Almost there. Almost there.
Woo!
You did it.
Oh man, that was intense. I think that was one of my favorites, but one of the most intense.
Right, so that's a combination of kicking and pushing, but obviously you're focusing on that push, a big part of the game, and seeing if you can still do that power output, and in this case, keep the lights going up and alive. So, and some people might say, well, can't you just do that practice regularly? Absolutely, you can. You can do it with a target holder and a non-electronic vest. Difference is, this thing keeps you accountable. Like it is, if you don't do it with the right amount of time, the right amount of power, you're out, right?
And the data.
And the data behind it, right? So I think again that's what's important, and measuring it and seeing it improving. So I'm so glad to have you here to demonstrate these things when it comes to the stamina. So that was pushing stamina. So we showed you the kicking one with the knees up. Also a little bit of reaction. We showed you a pushing stamina.
Hey, knees up. That's about burpees. I'm not too right. Yeah, we did that.
Mm-hmm.
A footwork sound. Was that this week? Were we talking about that one this week? I can't remember.
Do that one next week.
Okay, so we did the push one, we did the kicking one. Okay, now, again, once you, are focusing on these specific things to train for, once you have that benchmark, then you can start, again, measuring at the end of the week. Again, 2 minutes with whatever kick combination you want, either like roundhouse kick or either like cut kick. Then you can see if it's going up or going down. Again, when you do your benchmark or you do your repeat test, you should do the same thing, right? So if your benchmark is roundhouse kick all the time, then your follow-up test should be roundhouse kick all the time. Because if you do a different kick, then it's different because your power output's going to be different based on the different kick. So that's important to keep that.
Or you can, in the beginning, you can do a benchmark for all the kicks if you wanted, right?
Right, exactly. So you can do like roundhouse, back kick, cut kick,
Yeah.
whatever, like a combination sequence, and repeat that over and over again. That's something that you can do also. Whatever you and your coach decide. But again, just start with something. That's better than nothing, because right now, again, you're most likely not measuring in any way, at least in a numerical way. So, so I think that's very important. I think we're just reached the 30-minute mark. Wow, these things go quick. I didn't think about it. I mean, because I'm not
Well, you're not kicking.
yeah, it was exactly 30 minutes. It was 29 minutes, 59 seconds. So that was our first talk about stamina. I know it's a love-hate relationship for you guys, but it is extremely important for the game. And so we will cover the next few topics on some different ways to measure and improve stamina. And yeah.
Hope you guys enjoyed me working on my stamina today. I've got that benchmark now?
Yeah, your benchmark is good. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We'll see you next week. Not at the same time, because we have to move ours a little bit later today, because we have a photo shoot today, which is exciting. But next week, we'll do the normal time, 2 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah, until then, I'll start working on my stamina.
Yeah, as you should as well. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
See ya.